That's
You know what we're going to do is, we're going to repost it. We'll post the whole video because I think it's just going live now. Something went
well,
wrong. Something went wrong. Well, that's the only glitch that we had today. I'm okay with that.
it says live. That's I can see it here.
Yep,
It's live.
it's live now. 15 seconds in. Okay, so we didn't get the beginning, but we're going to get Lisa, and that's the most important piece. Thank you,
Yes,
Lisa, for
exactly.
letting us know. Lisa's in our waiting room right now, so she's waiting to pop in whenever we're ready to
Oh,
bring her in. Okay. Anything else you want to cover on Find Your Mentor? We're going to go into this in great detail over the course of the weeks ahead. I'm going to talk a little bit about Find Your Mentor. We want to get you involved. No cost. It's just your first name and email address gets you in, and you can set up an account right now. And when we get it into the point where it's pre-launch, then we're going to get you access to the system. And like Sophia said, you can have a free account forever if you want to. You don't have to pay anything, or there's upgrades within the system that allow you to do more things, more features, more apps, more ability to sell content and sell coaching and sell mentoring and whatever it is you want to do. And I think that really becomes a lot of fun when you start building out on that. So
most important thing is that we're going live every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. We're going to be introducing amazing coaches and mentors like Lisa Schermerhorn, who's going to come in a second. That's really important to know that you can rely on that every Thursday at 7 p.m. EST. Then the other thing is that we're also going to be announcing our unique founding membership opportunity, which is going to be something amazing, especially for mentors, but both mentors and finders. That's a very unique membership that we're going to be offering. We're already actually offering it, but we could go into that anytime. And then the opportunity of sharing the word with the world that we're here and Finding Mentors launching, which is the ambassadorship. That's something very, very, I think, very beautiful because we really need to get the word out and have as many people as possible understand that there is a solution out there. There's a platform that is designed for the purpose of really helping you find who you're looking for. And right, apart from that, I think that would be the most important thing. And then I think moving forward, we'll just every time we go live, we're going to be answering questions. And then we have our Facebook group, we have our Telegram group, we have so many possibilities of reaching out to us with questions. And we're here and can't wait to connect with you.
we're real excited. We've been putting a lot of effort into this. I've only joined the team, literally what 2 weeks, Sophia. It's not been long, right? And it's kind of interesting because it's like it's such a good project because it solves so many problems. And when I look at anything, any project, people come to me all the time with projects and network marketing and everything else, and I always look at it and I always ask the question, what problem does it solve? Well, everybody needs it. Uh-huh, sure. What problem does it solve? Well, everyone needs it. They don't know they need it, they need it. When you hear that, no go. There's no way that that's going to work, right? People have a problem, they know they have a problem, and if you can address the problem with a solution that makes sense, isn't costly, gets the job done, you have a winning product. And that's really what we look at. And Find Your Mentor to me was that. It was like all the pieces just kind of lined up. It's like one after another, they just lined up. And I thought, hey, this is really good because you figured out the hardest parts of this. And I don't know that you really focus so much on the marketing side of it, but you really solve the marketing part of it, which is the hardest part for a lot of coaches.
Well, yeah, well, we're here now, and it's going to be it's going to evolve. Obviously, we're right now we're at the very beginning, and we're going to evolve with the mentors and the finders giving us feedback and being able to develop as closely as possible to the human needs. So
So
that's
here's the
going to be
pitch, right? Here's the pitch for everyone right now is that we would like you to sign up, findyourmentor.com. We'd love you to get in there. Just put your first name, your email address. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to have access to the account just yet, but we need to show our people that there's interest in this thing, which I know there is. It's not a question of it. So go there, findyourmentor.com. You can do that now. Get another tab on your browser. Just go in and get an account set up. And what that'll do, that'll give us a signal that hey, we got to work harder on this because we got a lot of people waiting for us to launch this thing. And you'll be informed every step of the way, everything that we're going to do every step of the way. And then on Monday, we're going, or actually, I think Sophia, you said on the weekend, we're going to reach out to you and give you information on how to become an ambassador, and be able to help spread the word for us and, get compensated for your efforts as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, that's gonna be very exciting. I'm
It
looking forward
is
to
real exciting. All right. Are we ready to bring in our
it. Yeah,
very special guest tonight?
yes.
Okay. Do you want to introduce her, or would you like me to introduce her?
I think you should introduce her because you know so much more about her than I do at this point, and I think that would be you're the one who, I mean, you guys know each other longer than I
Yeah, by
do.
about 6 hours.
Oh,
It's not that long.
I'm happy to introduce myself.
I'll bring you in, Lisa. Hang on.
hi, Lisa.
Yes,
Good
our
idea.
first mentor tonight is Lisa Schermerhorn, and I'm proud that I figured out how to spell her last name without having to look, and I got the C in it this time because we missed it on the Liberty
Yeah.
Summit that we did the other day. I apologize for that, Lisa. Yeah, Lisa's been a coach, and she and I had a great conversation when I first met her. We had done the Truth Tour together, and she was in the, I'll tell you the story. She was in the room with Bruce Poppy, and Bruce Poppy was giving her, doing an interview of her, and she was telling her story about how she coaches and all the things that she does. And I was like, and I was just sitting there, I was like watching, and I was the only one in the room, just the three of us were there. And I was like blown away by her. It's like, wow, this is really amazing. So she left, and I didn't get a chance to really talk much with her because she had other things she had to do. She had a seminar, it's busy, right? So Bruce Poppy's talking to me, and then he says, let me interview you. So he turns the camera on me and he does an interview with me. Then Lisa sees that video and she goes, wow, I had no idea. So we're so aligned with our beliefs in the coaching and the NLP and the energy work and all the things that we do. We bring all these different skills together in a cohesive package and help people. Doesn't matter what stage of life it is, and doesn't matter what's going on. We're able to really give them a good boost. So we had a lot of synergies together. And then Lisa says, you got to meet my friend Sophia, because you two have a lot in common. So Lisa, she's put us all together. That's why she's here. She's our favorite. We love her, and cannot wait to hear from her. So Lisa, welcome to the program.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor. And I just love you too. And you're absolutely right about the synergy. And, one of the things that I look for in people that I want to who I want to work with and really be with, just on a personal level, are heart-centered people. And these are two people who are truly doing things for the highest and best for humanity. And as someone who's been in the healing arts for 20 years, I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I am an NLP practitioner, master practitioner. I've studied shamanism. I've studied energy medicine. I've studied so much, and yet this works, but a lot of people don't know about it because most people will go to conventional, therapy and things like that, which is important, but there's so many other options out there. And my own story is that I was deeply depressed at 38. I had a breakdown and I was suicidal. I didn't not want to be here anymore. And I was going from therapist to therapist to therapist, and no one was able to help me. And I was going 3 days a week. And finally, someone suggested a hypnotist. And I was like, a hypno what? They make you quack like a duck. And I thought, was so desperate, I decided to try it, and it changed my life. And because of that, I went on to study hypnosis. And then I went on to study all the things that my mentor studied because I wanted to be just like her. And then after I got through all the things that she studied, I was like, oh, wow, I can't be her. Now I have to figure out who I am. And then I've been on a 20-year journey. And then, I thought a lot about this over the years. And I said, I had to go to so many different people over the years to get different types of help. And so I want to be the a la carte. I want to be the one-stop shopping. I want that everyone can come to one place. And that's what I love about Find Your Mentor as well, because you have all of these skilled practitioners. And one of the hardest things is about being a practitioner and a mentor is marketing. and selling yourself. Because as a healer and as someone who is a mindset coach, I want to do my work. I want to spend as many hours in a day that I can on helping others. When I have to spend hours and hours and hours trying to market myself, it takes away time where I could be serving someone and helping someone get out of pain. So that's one of the reasons why I truly love this, what you're doing.
Exactly. And I think that's what, if mentors could focus on what they're here to do and what they're best at, not best at figuring out the latest hashtags and SEO, waste of valuable capacity. And that's not what, you should be dealing with. That's ridiculous. Like in these modern times with technology, are you kidding me? You should not be dealing with these kind of issues. So that's something we really have to eliminate. And then your job is going to get so much more relaxed because you can really just put that aside and make sure that you take care of you and you take care of your clients. And so that's really the most important thing. And I'd love to support as many as I can. I see so many amazing people who could help other people, but they don't know how to get over that barrier and actually into the part, they can, how do they transition into actually starting to help people? They don't know where to find them either. They don't know how to expose themselves. So you're already very far ahead of the game, Lisa. You're with your presence.
One of the things, thank you, but one of the things that I found as a gift from the whole COVID thing is I went from seeing people locally to internationally. That Zoom and all of those other online presences, because you can do this work online just as effectively as you can, in person. So now having this platform is allowing people to connect internationally. And so that's a really special thing. It's like I work with people in Africa, I've worked in people in Australia, I've worked with people in Europe, Canada, it doesn't matter, Mexico. So that's the other part was most of us were limited in an office in a brick and mortar space before this because a lot of people didn't understand or trust the power of learning and healing and doing this work online. So you've really come in at a good time to really assist people as they become more comfortable in this space.
Thank you. I really see this as Find Your Mentor because when you just address, like, I come here at the right time, I feel like I'm a cog in the wheel of Find Your Mentor, honestly, because there's so much that is going into this project. And I really appreciate your words. I am very aware, though, that Find Your Mentor is it is here at the right time and serving the right purpose, but it literally is like it is a huge project, a global project, and I'm one of the tools in the Find Your Mentor development toolbox, but it really is offering the stage for people like you and so many other beautiful mentors to find a voice and to be heard, to be found, to be seen, and to be able to help. We're really scaling this opportunity to be able to reach so many more people in the world. And I want to take a step back and the faster Find Your Mentor grows, the more people we connect, we match through Find Your Mentor, the happier I'm going to be and the more relaxed. At this point, I'm not very relaxed because I know all of what still has to go into this development and where we are. We're at the beginning. It's kind of like, the surfer that goes into the ocean, and then you have that first, what is it? Kind of like that first water resistance wave. You have to get over that, and then you can, you get to the fun waves and you start surfing. So we're just at that point where we're headed over that one wave resistance thing, whatever it's called. I'm not a surfer. But yeah.
Well, as an entrepreneur, there's lots of waves in running your own business. It's not just one wave, there's multiple. But as you know, the reward of, being a visionary and seeing your platform come alive, because I've seen other people try to put together lists and guides of, and locally. And what happens is people end up, putting together, their little, their picture and their description, but it just sits there. It's flat. They don't do a lot with them. It just sits there. Where this is something that you are videotaping people, you're really getting people out there and promoting them. You're really doing a lot and giving a tremendous amount of value. And that's the other thing that I love about this. And it's new technology, it's all cutting edge, and it's exciting. It's exciting. One of the things that I love, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, is I'm a why coach. And so we help people discover their why, their how, and their what. And people who are visionaries are either challenge or better way. And they are always seeking to look for something new, something better, something special to give to humanity. And they want to share it. And I see a lot of contribute in you, that you want to be of service to the world. And I see a lot of better way in you, as like, let's find a better way to help people and humanity. So I love what this is all about. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Now we
Thank
want to
you.
talk to you, Lisa, about your skill set, because we're calling this mentor circle, and I think Sophia, you would agree with this. We want to have the mentors do a little bit of a showcase, right?
Yes.
Show us.
Shine some light on Lisa.
Yeah, shine the light on Lisa. Let's have Lisa talk about Lisa now, and some of the things that you're doing. Lisa, maybe tie it into a little bit to current events. Because I know people are really struggling right now, and some of the things that you're doing to help them navigate these crazy times that we're living through.
So one of the things I talk about, and I wrote a book about it in Every Belief is a Lie, and is the fact that from the time we're very young, we are programmed with beliefs. And so from the time we are born, we take on the beliefs of our parents, our schoolmates, our society, whether we live in an urban or a rural environment. We often take on money issues, whether, if there's scarcity, all of these things that become programmed into us. So we start living a life that isn't ours. And this happens in all aspects of our life. And we get programmed throughout everything, through social media. We get programmed through the television set, through news. And people struggle because a lot of people end up with identity crisis. They don't know who they are. They don't know how to deal. There's a lot of polarization within families right now, and friends, and in marriages, because people believe in different things. And what I like to say is there's room for all of us, and that we need to start accepting each other for who we are. We also have lost the ability to critically think. And so people are just taking the word of what other people think, and authority figures. And this is where I say, we have to take a step back, and we have to look at, where did we get our information from? And we need to look at all sides, and we need to figure out who we are in humanity and where we're going. I try to stay in a neutral place with people, because I feel that there's room for all different beliefs, because we don't know what we don't know. And so this thing about everyone going at each other and fighting, I'm right, you're wrong, it doesn't serve anyone, because we all need to go to the same place together. And so with everything that's going on in humanity, there's a lot of people who are in pain. There are a lot of people who are suffering. There are a lot of people who are discovering information that they, never, or they're finding hard to believe. So this work that I do helps people get to the root cause fast, and help them heal the belief systems, pull up these belief systems and say, let's release the emotion around it. And so that you can look at these things as an adult and in the present moment, so that you can see things that are not, and you're not projecting onto other people. And you can be an adult and having an adult decision, if that makes sense. So, because so many people are dealing with a lot of wounding, and we have a lot of people who have arrested development, and that are running the world. We have a lot of 6-year-olds and 10-year-olds emotionally
You're
running
hitting
the world.
so many points, Lisa. I just can't even go there. So true, so true.
So, in the work that I do, I'm a safe place for people of all beliefs and all of their, like, all beliefs, because what I'm here is to help people find their own truth. And I just wrote a chapter for a collaborative book called In Every Truth There Is You. And it's also a play off of in every belief is a lie. So in every truth there is you, because we need to unwind what our beliefs are and see if they're really our truth. Then we have to release the pain that's around it, and then we need to forgive ourselves. Another thing that people don't understand is the importance of knowing your values. Most people don't know what their values are until they find out what they aren't. And I will say that that was my biggest wake up call, was finding out what my values weren't, because I kept bumping up against things and I was like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. Or that person, doesn't share my values, until I finally realized what values were in my life. And an example of that, I moved to a town that values were um, sports. Everything was about sports. Every single team in the high school wins the state championship, which was great. But I would show up at school board meetings and they didn't have enough money for books, and there would be 10 of us in a meeting. And then I'd show up at another meeting where they're raising millions of dollars for sports fields, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I know that's a light kind of an example, but sharing your values and being in companies and being with people who share the same values, because if you don't, that's how you end up unhappy. I entered into a marriage at a very young age. I met my ex-husband at 19. I didn't know what my values were. After I got married, I realized we didn't share the same values. He was cute.
And I bet he was a
So
star quarterback or something too, right? In that school.
no, no,
No?
no. No, but he was very funny. He's a very funny man. But values, then you want to discover your why and your purpose. Because when you're in your why and your purpose, everything starts to align, and then everything you do becomes easy and effortless. And when you start to live a life that, like, I can't tell you how many times I see clients who are in the wrong job.
Oh yeah.
Twice I have had people who had the why of what we call challenge, which is my why also. People who think outside the box. They don't like to be told what to do. They like to be independent, and they're great salespeople. They're great entrepreneurs. They're great people who go out there and, you know, they're visionaries. And the last two of my clients were both challenged in desk jobs, being micromanaged, and their bodies ached. They hurt. Their stress levels were through the roof. They hated their jobs. They go home and they were miserable. It impacts every single part of your life when you don't know what your values are and you don't know what your why is. And one of them, who's the challenge, she's like, I want to be in risk management. I said, then you're sitting there in a desk job. And so people are afraid to make those changes because oftentimes they don't even feel worthy of those new positions. They don't feel worthy of taking those on. So it's about going back and unwinding those old belief systems so they can step into their power. Does that make sense?
Yes. Would you say that somebody that has a very high level of self-doubt can actually become very self-confident?
I'm a perfect example of it.
Mm-hmm.
I went from not wanting to be here anymore and thinking that I was stupid and didn't think that I had anything to offer, to writing a best-selling book, and I've spoken on 6 stages uh, around the country. So it's a matter of, it was just a belief. it was just a belief that I took on because I learned differently, right? So because I didn't get good grades, I thought that that's how I put myself inside this box. And then what I realized was that it was I learn differently. I'm creative. I also have a very big metaphysical side. So I could see things that other people didn't see. So instead of being called crazy, which is, but then again, when and I've never had this, no one has ever called me normal, but if they did, I'd probably be offended.
I thought you were going to say nobody's ever called me crazy.
No, no, that I get a lot. I've never been called normal, but that's okay. It's like I love being different. And when I found out about myself, when I discovered that I was a challenge personality, instead of having shame, feeling like I was broken and feeling like there was something wrong with me, I was able to go, oh, that's my superpower. My superpower is that I'm different. My superpower is that I think outside the box. So I'm very solution focused and I find answers that most people would never think of because I don't have that linear mind, which is why if you saw all the papers all over the floor.
You
I
just
need people,
described
or
me all the
that's,
way through. I'm exactly the same as you. I think that's why the three of us are here because we're all very much in the same boat. We're all into challenge, and we're entrepreneurial, and we have bigger visions, and here to help other people survive and thrive as well. And we've got so many skills in so many different areas. It's like, where do I put my focus? Well, I focus on everything because I can do everything. It
no,
can be
it's
challenging.
amazing because when you're a challenge personality, like I can literally watch myself do five things at once,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But the problem is finishing, the completion. And I know that about myself because I'm not detail oriented. So I partner with people who are more detail oriented. I partner with people who know how to use a computer because when I have to deal with IT, I so admire you, Robert, and you too, coming up with these apps and coming up with all these things. It's like just, anything technological, I start to lose it, anything with apps or anything like that. But yes, because I even still handwrite my notes on everything. It's just the way I work. I'm old school, and that's what works for me.
I'd love to come back to something you were saying, Lisa, which is you've been saying some things that have really been making me think about this. So would you say that somebody who has a lack of control, a sense of a lack of control in their life, does that stand in relationship with a high level of conditioning? Is that actually what is standing in your way?
Okay, so here's an interesting thing. If you have something that happened to you as a child, and I'm going to tell you a crazy story about my great grandmother. She woke up at the age of 16, and her parents said to her, we're not actually your parents, we're your grandparents. Your mother died in childbirth. Your father went to America, remarried, has several children. They've sent for you. Your bags are packed. You're leaving on the boat today. She gets to Ellis Island. They change her name. And she ends up at this new home to find out they didn't want to bring in a daughter. They were looking for a housekeeper and a maid.
Oh God.
She then ends up marrying a man who's a traveling salesman and is never home, and she's left to raise three children on her own. So guess what? She saw the world from the lens of abandonment. So everything that happened in her life was through the lens of abandonment. And then we start to attract experiences until we heal it, because the world is a mirror for you. And the world will keep showing you over and over again what you need to learn. And so what happens is I thought that I was stupid. So I kept giving my power away over and over and over again because I thought everyone else knew more than I did. So what I ended up doing was I kept ending up in abusive situations. I kept ending up with jobs that I had to give my power away. I had a boss in the garment center. I worked in the fashion industry in New York City. And he would come through weekly and stick his hand in your food and take a bite of your sandwich and grab your French fries and eat some of your salad and walk away. It was a whole power play, right? But in the meantime, no one said a word. We all sat and waited because we were all busy giving our power away, because we were attracted to that kind of situation, because anyone who would stand up and speak in that situation would lose their job. So until I stopped, I had to stop that pattern. I had to look at it. I had to unwind it. Where did this come from? Go back and heal it. And then I had to make changes in my life. I had to look at how this was playing out in my life and take responsibility. Because too many people in that case will start to blame other people. They're pointing their fingers out, and meanwhile, they've got 3 fingers pointing back at them. And so I had to stop being a victim. I had to stop giving my power away, and I had to stand up and speak up and start taking action in the right way. And the miracle that happens when you do that is, it's terrifying at first. And then my life, for me, my life took off. It's like when you're in alignment, everything is aligned with you, and then everything starts to happen. The law of attraction, it all comes to you.
That's beautiful. I think that's so important to understand, which I can imagine as a why coach, you're probably always confronted with this, because the why touches on how self-determined are you, how in control do you feel, how powerful do you feel. Like when you have your why, that kind of touches on that area of, yes, my why, but there's probably that is connected to a lot of emotions that might have to do with sadness or fear or disempowerment, because we're not allowing ourselves for some reason to actually live by that why.
Right. When we're not aligned in our why, because our why is, have you ever gone through a day that felt easy and effortless? Like you just were having the time of your life because you're in what you're supposed to be doing. You are aligned with who you are. And when you're not, you feel it in your body. It's like your soul is always giving you messages, and we just ignore it. And we ignore it and we ignore it. We get stressed out. Then we start to get sick. And then let's pop a pill for this. Let's pop a pill for that to mask it, right? Instead of taking action, because we've been taught to not take action, to just suck it up and deal. Mm-hmm. And that's not what this world is about. It's about stepping forward and stepping into who you are and really knowing. And so what I have done, because I did this, was I went from feeling worthless, useless, having no purpose at all, to stepping into it. And it was not an easy process. It took me 20 years to get here. You know, I'm not going to say that overnight you're going to do it, but I was able to take all of these pieces and all these mentors that I was so grateful to have in my life, who pushed me and helped me be the best person I could be. And then I had to step out of a 29-year marriage, and then I had to be alone. My kids were grown. I had to learn how to be self-sufficient. I had to do all the things that I had never done before. And, you know, I was on my hands and knees. I refinished a 1,200 square foot deck with a sander, with a sander by myself. I had no idea what I was doing. But it was the most empowering experience of my life. I don't want to have to do it again, although I think I do. But you know, these were the things that made me feel good about myself and pushed me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated about the fact that we, as humans, when we're conditioned and we picked up all these things in our life, basically it's the concept really of the subconscious, which is you actually don't know what you don't know. And that's why a mentor is somebody that can help you bring that up into your consciousness. And in that way, how are you supposed to heal something you don't know is there? The only thing you have is the symptom. You're like, well, there's a block, or there's something going on that is not aligned. What is it? I can't get to it because it's hidden in the subconscious.
Well,
or it's It's a subconscious pattern. Yes.
Yeah, it's the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is if you asked 20 people to write down all the things that they love about you, they're going to all say the same thing, right? But if you had to write down all the things that about yourself, you'd be like, wait a minute, they don't match. How come I don't see myself the same way other people think? And so it's this crazy situation. And what happens is from the time we're born until we're about 21, 22 years old, we have these different brain frequencies. So we're born in delta, which is this really wide frequency. Then we go into theta, which is the state of imagination. That's why kids are always running around as princesses and sticks or guns, and they're making mud pies and all that because, that's their state and they're absorbing all of that information. And then we get into alpha, which is a learning state, and it's also the meditative state. And then we're in beta right now. All that information is stored in the subconscious, in those lower states. And that's all hypnosis does, is it's slowing down the brain waves and getting to the part of the brain where that information is stored so that you have access to it. I can't tell you how many times I've actually brought people back to being in utero where, let's say, they felt their mother was going through a really difficult time and was terrified to have a child and came into the world feeling unwanted because the mother was scared to have the child or didn't want to have that child at that time in their life. So that's programmed upon birth. So now they're seeing the world through the eyes of I'm not wanted, and they don't even know why. And
Doesn't
every
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, and every situation, every relationship, they end up rejected over and over again because that's the lens they see the world through and they don't even know it.
I think that even Dr. Bruce Lipton, one of my favorite people, he dedicated his life to scientifically proving this.
Yeah.
Yeah. On a scientific level. So this is not just something, that is just a concept, an idea, or based on experience and knowledge, or yeah.
No, he says you're basically your brain is baked at the age of 7, like you're done by the age of 7. I I like to say that there you have a little bit more wiggle room, but there's a lot of science to it. But there's also you can inherit ancestral trauma. So there's science behind that too, where I've worked with people who will inherit trauma going back so far I've worked with people going back 10 generations. I've worked with indigenous people who there was someone who had Mayan and Aztec DNA, and with all of the abuse that happened to all of these people over the generations, they go back and then we heal that generation going back down to the next level, doing forgiveness, healing, next generation, all the way down through. And I know it sounds crazy because these people aren't alive, but I just say it works. They're just these beliefs show up, these people show up, and even if it's not true and it's made up, I always say it creates a healing.
Well, I just had a thought. So what would you say based on your experience of doing ancestral trauma, are we in times now that are different than other generations? Are we more challenged, or are we what is the difference in our generation, or in these times, so not in our generation, in these times of being able to look at these things compared to, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years ago? Is there a difference?
We're getting hit with a lot more information, right? We have social media, we have TV, we have the internet, we get bombarded with everything. Whereas before, someone could kind of just watch the 6 o'clock news, turn it off, and then left alone. We didn't have cell phones. We weren't bombarded. So people are getting brainwashed and getting hit with information from on a there's a repetitive cycle that's going on. That's part of brainwashing. It's the information that gets hit over and over again, and fear. So what happens is we have something called the reticular activating system. When we are put in fear all the time, the blood leaves our brain, goes out to our extremities, and now we're running from a saber-toothed tiger. It's how someone can pick up a car off a child. A woman can pick up because they get the superhuman strength because we're in that fight or flight. When you're in fight or flight, your brain is not being, you don't have, what's the word I want to use? You can't think clearly, let's put it that way. So the brain grabs onto the first thing that makes you feel safe. Okay, because safety is everything. That's what it's all about. So when you're grabbing onto the first thing that makes you feel safe, it may not be true. It just makes sense at the time, so we grab onto it. So we have all of these people that are believing things out of safety, repetition, from authority figures, and so it's ingrained in them now. And so trying to deprogram people with information that from trusted sources, from people that they have been brainwashed to believe and to give their power away to over and over and over again. I think this has been going on through history. I think that people have been told, I don't think we know the truth about anything. Every time I turn around, I find out something else that I thought that I believed that's not true. And so I have learned to have an open mind, and I've learned to be discerning, and I've learned to do my own research. And I want to look at both sides. So I will watch both sides to see what the truth is. And to me, there were so many truths that were so glaring in my eyes. It was like someone was shining a giant flashlight in my face. And so that's how I came to my own decisions. But everyone has to come to their own decisions their own way. And some people, no matter what, they hold on to their victimhood so strongly that is where their power comes from. And that's okay. But I always say, own it. If you choose not to do the work, then own it, and you can't complain.
Yes, exactly. That don't enjoy it.
Just wallow in it. It can be fun sometimes.
I was once asked, like, what would be my holy grail? I don't know, it was a very unique question, and it really made me think that if I could, in my life, I could come to a point, like, let's say 30, pick a cool age, say 30, and actually be able to be at a point where I've worked on my trauma, like most of it is dealt with. I'm freed up. I'm in my full capacity. I'm physically is still at a very young age, and moving forward, then designing my life would be so much more exciting and less weighted. And I
wouldn't have had any friends at 30 if I had done that. I wouldn't have had anyone to talk to.
You know how many times, I mean, I've had this experience where I really have, I think 3 times in my life, there's always those those friends that you just can't get rid of because they're just meant to be. But I have actually then there's those acquaintances, right? And I've had to clean up, like, probably 3 times in my life. I've had to clean up my acquaintances because they were just grabbing onto me and not wanting me to move anywhere. They didn't want me to evolve. They didn't want me to grow. And I had to exit myself out of these situations. And those were very powerful moments because you suddenly find yourself kind of alone. But then you notice the contrast of what, like, they're still in their bubble, which is not, I don't want to be judgmental because they're fine, but for me, it wasn't fine. And, like, this is not where I want to be. What they're doing, if I live the way they're living, I will be complaining the whole day. And I didn't want to complain anymore. I said, that doesn't make sense to me. I either live the way they live or I don't. But then I don't want to be complaining about my life. I really want to enjoy it. So I had to take myself out of that situation. And that was really rewarding. But when you've done that once, and you really, I look at other people, I'm like, they lived in the same village their whole life or town their whole life. And I'm kind of jealous of that sometimes. I'm like, I've never experienced that, probably because I traveled so much. But, and then again, I'm not, because I mean, we all have our own specific journey, our own specific story that is meant for us. And there's no right path. That's something else with what I've come to understand with the development of Find Your Mentor is we all have our unique path and journey. And there's no right path for everybody. There's no one path that fits others. It's just we have our one path and it's up to us to find out what that is. And nobody's there. Nobody should judge us for how we go about things. We're all basically here really trying to figure out, doing our best, trying to figure out what the next best step is. And I love to remind people when they're just beating themselves up, and I beat myself up too, is if you look back, even like a couple months, did you really think about the next step you were going to take? And most people will say, yes, I did. And I said, see, you did the best possible thing at that moment.
Yeah.
So you already did the best you could. Relax. Yeah, I'm talking to myself.
Well, you made me think of when I used to live, I lived in Hoboken, which is right across the river from Manhattan.
Mhm.
And I was there for a year, and I was talking to a neighbor who grew up in Hoboken their whole life, and how Hoboken is 1 square mile. Frank Sinatra grew up there. And he said to me, I've never been to Manhattan. I've never been across that river. And I remember being astonished because I was commuting there every day. It was 20-minute bus ride back and forth. I was like, what? But you're right. It's like everyone has their own purpose. Everyone has that. There is something to be said about living in the same town your whole life, knowing everyone, having that community. And then there's something to be said. I've moved several times. I've traveled the world, and there's something really special about that too. And so there's no judgment here. It's really more about you're doing the best you can with what you have, and are you fulfilling your life's purpose? Okay? Because everyone's purpose is different, just like there's 9 different whys. And I talked about challenge a lot, but there's simplify. People who have the ability to take, a 5-page email, and they can respond in 4 bullet points. They can recap a meeting in like 3 sentences. Then you have people who are right way, who create structure, and there's a right way to do something. We need those people. I need people like that because they make things happen for me, because I'm always up here with the ideas, and I need people to be able to make things happen. So we all have our different whys of what we're here. And once you're in alignment, the joy that happens with that, of finding your purpose, finding your values, and stepping into it. Yeah, this work changed my life in such ways that, people used to say, I used to listen to Oprah and Deepak Chopra say all this stuff about, clear your mind and meditate and be in the present moment. And I was like, no one tells you how. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Get in the present moment. What is that? Loving yourself. What is that? No one explained to me what that was and what it looked like. And what I discovered was loving yourself meant setting boundaries. Loving myself was saying no. Loving myself was speaking up and stating who I am. And I always thought it was, if I'm a good girl, they'll love me. And then if they love me, I'll love me. Very, very different. And so spending my whole life in that, if I'm good enough, I'll be loved, to I'll love myself, and those who love me will follow along. help me
I
in my
get
life
it.
if not.
I get it. There's this website, the Positive Intelligence. I think you can do a test for your I think it's seven. Anyways, I don't know how many saboteurs. And I did the test like years ago, and I was so frustrated because it was exactly what you just said. I was a people pleaser, and I'm like, oh, I can't say no either. I have a really hard time. And what I noticed was working on myself and working with mentors, and then getting to the point when I'm in a moment of full self empowerment, and I make a statement and I stand up for myself and I express that, it's almost like I create this excitement around me of people like, yeah, you go, girl, that's amazing. It's almost like it's empowering them too. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. And it's almost like I'm sending off these sparks to other people who are noticing it. And they're like, you're really inspiring me right now. And I'm like, wow. So through us coming into our power,
Yep.
we give permission to others, and we're a role model for others.
That's so right on, Sophia. I can't even begin to tell you. And especially for someone who I suspect has a lot of contribute, whether or not it's what your first, second, or third. What happens is these are people who also love at such a great depth. And they give and they give and they give, and it's hard for them to receive. So they drain themselves. And so the part of you that needs to give, if you have someone else who wants to give too and you deny it, how do you feel when someone denies you? Right? It's hard. It hurts. So it's like, why would you take that gift from someone else and let them give to you? And so also the why helps you determine whether or not to say no, because people who are contribute say yes to everything. They overextend themselves and they'll take on all these things that they're not necessarily good at. They just want to help. And so what the why does is it sets parameters, because it's like, okay, this project is not in my why. I might be able to do it, but there might be someone else who's more adept at it who would do a better job faster and enjoy it. So it gives you an opportunity to say no.
So doing the why test not only shows you what your why or what your whys are, but they also tell you how to move forward, or they help you understand how to uncover it, or
Yeah. So you take a test and it'll give you your why you do something, how you do it, and then what you bring. For instance, my why is challenge. So I believe that success happens when I think outside the box. How I do that is I help people find a better way and share it. So better way is my how. And what I ultimately bring is the ability to make sense out of complicated situations and problems. I'm a problem solver. So if it's not different, if it's not better, and it doesn't make sense, I don't do it. Okay. So if someone hands me a project that's on an Excel spreadsheet and I have to sit there and fill out numbers all day long, I'm like, I would love to help you, but my partner Kevin is much better at that. And he would love to help you. Instead of saying yes. So it gives you, it's like, okay, this is not in my wheelhouse. It's not serving anyone to take on things that are not bringing you joy and that are not helping people. You can, knowing someone's why, you can put people in the right position. You can promote them. You can hire them based on their why, and if they share the same values with the company's values. Because I saw some statistic that there was something like only 28% of employees are actually engaged at work.
I'm not surprised
That's
at all.
extraordinarily low.
Yeah.
But if you start hiring the right people and putting them in positions according to their why, you're going to have closer to 70% engagement.
Imagine it's the same thing with relationships or marriages, right? Because
Exactly.
like I was just listening to that today, which is how I forgot the percentage of actually the in partnerships, the disengagement, the level of disengagement. Um, and I was like, I can't imagine. Like I would rather fight with my partner for my partner's attention if I have to get to the point where we're actually communicating again and we can crack that open, or we can get to the point where we're actually communicating again, because that's just suffering. And why would you want to do that? I have like something built into me where I'm like, I know I'm not here on earth to suffer. So when I suffer, I'm like, I have to do everything I possibly can to get out of the suffering back into my happy place, because that's where I'm creative and motivated and inspired. And that's the bucket, right? So if our bucket, if we can fill our bucket, if we can, if there's a hole in it, right? To do everything to fix the hole so that our bucket can fill up again. And it's work. It really is work.
It is.
Yeah. Robert, we've been so I could talk with Lisa for hours about these topics.
Well, that's
What
what
do you
coaching
think?
is, right? So that's what we're doing here. So we're going to get that kind of information out and have people, because your experiences that you're sharing them, a lot of people watching have the same experiences, right? And it's really that making that connection and really realizing what we're about and how we got here. And my story is similar to both of your stories. It's like having all these challenges and stuff. And it wasn't until I found out what my why was that life became a lot easier. Now, it's not perfect, but it certainly is a lot easier. Knowing why you're here and what you're meant to do just makes a big difference. So, Lisa, your coaching is brilliant for that, because that's a really, really, really important aspect for a lot of people to get. And more, like you said, the employees, even better if you could find out before you hire them what their why is and put them in the right positions. And we see that in a lot of times in companies. They'll hire people and they'll like move them from position to position. Well, they're not working out here. Let's stick them over there and see what happens. Right? Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want a trial by error with
No.
someone's livelihood because you lose them. Because, one of the biggest things is people don't want to, they want to keep employees. It costs them a fortune to replace people. And the other thing is that if you know at work, if you have a team of people, if you know their why and you want to have an assortment of whys, because you don't want everyone having the same why, because then you're unproductive. If you have a bunch of challenge and better way people at a meeting, they're going to high five each other, coming up with all these great ideas, and then nothing will ever get done. Just keep meeting and coming up with great ideas. But what was interesting is I was just recently at a school and did the whys of the administration. And it was interesting is because I also get the order of people's whys. And so challenge was low and all of the administrators. And what's interesting, they were saying that the teachers were feeling like there was an us versus them. And I said, I bet they have some challengers as teachers. So if you have administration or if you have CEO and top executives that don't speak the same language as the people who work for them, if you don't have someone who's communicating with them, you're going to have an us versus them because they're not speaking the same language. They're not honoring people and listening. So it's great in relationships as well to know, like, trust is one of the whys. There are people who build relationships based on trust, and trust is everything. They're the people who you can count on. Yep. Then you can make deals with them with a handshake. But if you know your boss is a trust, or your spouse is, and you do something that they perceive is that you have betrayed their trust, they're done with you. They're just done with you. It's hard to get a second or third chance out of someone who has the why of trust. It's just their makeup. So when you know that about someone, you can make a point to, what can we do so this doesn't happen? Because especially someone, who has that in them and they cut you off, a lot of times these people cut you off and leave you in the dust and you have no idea what you've done.
That's so fascinating. I remember I had a boss this was in Germany, and it was a very exciting position I was in, and I got a fancy car and everything was just like cool. And a friend of mine was living at my apartment because she was in a difficult situation. Anyways, so I drank a glass of Prosecco and I said, Katharina, could you drive, please? and she was going up on the highway, and then I don't know what happened. Anyway, she scraped the side of the car on the railway, whatever. And I covered for her, and I said that I was driving, because I didn't want my boss to get angry at her because they knew each other. And he found out and he fired me. It wasn't about me not doing a good job or the
Yeah.
fact that it happened. That was not the problem, he said. It was the problem that I'd lied to him. And I'm like, wow, that was I don't know, I guess I was 23 or something, but that was profound for me. So I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, that's not productive. Like, he just lost me and we were good. Like, it was a good collaboration, but that was just I guess his why was trust, right? I never
Right.
thought about that.
Yeah.
Well,
It for him that, yeah, because if you in his mind, if you could lie about that, what else are you going to lie to him about? Whereas other people would say that's admirable because you covered to help your friend, right? That you
yeah.
did something admirable. So, it is it's hard because it's all perspective.
Well,
But yeah,
well, if I know my why, then it'll also help me understand not to be too extreme with it, right? Because I know I could fall prey to my why too, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So with challenge people aren't always understood, right? And we're different. And so we have to be careful with who around because when I'm around a right way person and they're inside the box and they're very structured, and I start talking about shamanism and I start talking about energy medicine, they're going to lose it, even if I talk about feelings.
That's so hard though. If you're a challenged person, like a person who likes to challenge the status quo, sometimes
Yeah.
that's what you're gonna exactly talk about when you know that person can't really take it because I just want to push their buttons a little bit.
Oh,
If
we
you're
do
just
that. I used to, I used to torture my poor ex-husband. Now that I look back on it, what I used to say, I'd come home from these trips to Peru and all the things that I did, and it was too much for him. And in fairness, I didn't honor his belief system. I didn't honor his why. And I tried to push who I was on him because I wanted him to see me. And so that's the thing is that, and someone who's contribute, who gives and gives and gives and doesn't say no, or someone who's trust, who will perceive, can oftentimes see the world as people being untrustworthy because they had their trust violated as a child. So anyone who they perceive could possibly hurt them, they're going to cut them off. And make sense people, they're the problem solvers. They can come up with a they can solve a problem really well, but then what happens is everyone starts to go to them to solve their problems, and then they don't have any time for themselves because everyone goes to them, and then people they enable because they don't allow other people to come to their own decisions. So there's all kinds of pitfalls to every single, and challenges to each one. Better way, as I said, they're always looking for a better way. They'll go and they'll buy a computer and walk out the door and be depressed because now it's obsolete because the next one's coming out. You
Mm.
know, there's always something with all of them. There's another one, clarifier, where they ask a lot of questions because they want to make sure that they're understood and the people in the room and who they're with are fully understood at all times. I was at the post office and there was a woman in front of me and she was asking the postwoman on the other side of the counter a million questions. And I was like, oh no. And then she asked her what her name was and she said, Kathy. And then the woman said, Kathy with the C or Kathy with the K. And I'm like, I have a clarifier in front of me. But it helps me own that. And instead of getting frustrated, I'm like, here's a clarifier being a clarifier. It's like I just laughed. I didn't take it personally. I didn't start getting angry that were 10 people in line behind me waiting to buy stamps. You just honor them where they're at. And that's what's so much fun about it.
I was just thinking how beautiful. I would like to ask you too, Robert, what you think. Like, I would love to understand how is it possible? This would be a real challenge as a question, or as for a team, or for Find Your Mentor, maybe. Just how can we inspire, infuse excitement, more excitement into people for how amazing this work is and how much value it'll bring into all of your life's areas, financial, private, your personal life, your family life, your career, understanding how to move more in the direction of your purpose, or maybe even developing your purpose, whatever. But it's like this work is, you can't you can't weigh it in gold. I've had so many experiences where I'm like, no amount of money I would actually equal what just happened in my life with this one experience with this mentor, this shift that I just did, like clarifying past trauma, like ancestral trauma. You can't pay that. You can't pay enough money actually to make, like, that is so invaluable. And then suddenly you have shifts in your life where your path suddenly clears up in front of you based on, just you taking care of baggage looking backward. But that was like a hot air balloon with sandbags. It was holding you down. You could not take off. And then when you get rid of those sandbags, you can suddenly take off. And I would love to inspire more people. And it's not dark and gloomy and painful. And yes, it can be at times. You can move through processes that might bring up emotions. But when you start shedding light on those dark parts, you're like, wow, I had no idea my grandmother went through that, for example, or I had no idea that that experience with my mother was actually because my mother was going through certain, let's say, was challenged. And then you bring an understanding and compassion, and then it can resolve itself. But so much understanding and love can come in to your system by the light being shed into the dark parts, where like, oh, I don't want to go there because it's painful. Well, it's actually more painful when we don't know what it is, because that's where the fantasy kicks in and we're like, oh my God, that must be really like, oh, there must be a huge pile of skeletons. I don't want to go there. And it might not be.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people will say they don't want to feel pain. But what I will say is when you suppress it, you're feeling it all the time. It just comes up in disease, it comes up in anxiety, it comes up in depression. That's where we end up feeling the pain because it has to go somewhere. If you stuff down a feeling and you don't process it, it has to go somewhere. So by addressing it, pulling it up, looking at it and say, okay, this hurt. I'm going to release you now. Thank you for the lesson, because you keep the lesson, you take the pain away, and now it's gone. So now that's not running you anymore. It's no longer unconscious. And so when you continue to do that work, the the lens that you see in the world changes. And that's the beauty, is that, I went from seeing the world as I don't have anything to offer and I'm not smart and I'll never amount to anything, to, hey, maybe I actually do have something to offer. My overcoming my obstacles, is may not be an inspiration to everyone, but other people who have had similar situations. I used to say, God, stop giving me these lessons because I'm tired. I was like, enough already with the lessons. I have a good amount of wisdom now. I can help people. But it's like I never thought in a million years. You talk about being 30 and going back. I think about what's happened to me since I was 30, and all of the incredible gifts that I've gotten through overcoming adversity and going through those lessons, and how precious life has come to me now, what it means to me now to be able to do what I do, and the people that I meet. I appreciate my life so much more. I have more joy than I ever could have imagined. And so going through that process, I will never stop learning. I will never stop growing. I'm always pushing myself out of my comfort zone, because that's what I do as a challenge. I walked 40 feet of red hot coals to get the courage to leave a 29-year marriage.
Wow.
That's what challenge people do. We're crazy.
That sounds like Tony Robbins.
It was Sundor Firewalk. I did the firewalk training.
Oh,
And so I bent rebar, a 10-foot rebar from my throat and broke arrows. And for graduation, I had to walk 40 feet of red hot coals. And by the time that was over, that week of doing that, I was able to finally realize that if I could do that, I could do anything. And then I was able to, really transform my life. But it's the power of the mind.
yeah. It, it's the power of the mind and how everything's connected. So when we change our mindset, we're shifting actually our physical reality, our our biological technology.
No, absolutely. I have a book called Your Body Speaks Your Mind that I use as kind of my Bible. It's kind of based on what Louise Hay talked about with, if you don't deal with something, it ends up manifesting in your body.
Mhm.
So that's where a lot of things happen. And, they say people with shoulder issues are people who carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. I went down to Florida. I was asked to speak at a funeral for one of my best friends in high school. And when I got down there, I found out a lot of things that I didn't know that she had been hiding and had to do with why she died. And it broke my heart. And on my flight home, my right eye was bright red. It was like someone had taken a magic marker and on the white part of my eye and just turned it red. And the fellow sitting next to me on the airplane said, did you know your eye is bright red? I looked it up in the book. What is it you don't want to see? What is it you don't want to know? I mean, it
Well,
literally, your body is interpreting things for you. And it's about deciphering what your body is telling you. So I spent 3 days grieving, releasing the pain, releasing the guilt, forgiving myself, forgiving her, and then it cleared up. I didn't have to go to the doctor. It was all emotionally based.
what's that book called?
Your body speaks your mind.
I love it.
It's somewhere by Deb Shapiro. It's right next to me because I use this with all my clients. And
Deb.
yeah, it goes into a lot of physical ailments, a lot of diseases, a lot of things. It'll give you the mindset. And even what's interesting is someone had an issue in an earlier part of their life. I'll ask them, did you have any major surgeries? What was going on in that time of your life? Because it helps give me clues to people's wounds, like
Mm.
what happened at that point. So that is one aspect of a way that I can help people figure out, get to the root cause of their issues.
Oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Mm. Robert's smiling.
I'm enjoying myself. I'm just taking it easy here. There's nothing for me to do right now. It's great. I just push a few buttons, make sure the show's running great, check the streams, make sure they're still going,
Yeah.
I got stuff to do back here, people. No, I think all of us could talk coaching forever. I mean, my background is very similar to Lisa's background, and Sophia, I'm learning about your background as well, and you've been through a lot of this as well, so we have a lot to share. I'm looking forward to doing this on a regular basis and having a weekly show, bringing on some great guests, and Lisa's been phenomenal tonight. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to ask for a shameless plug. My book, In Every Belief is a Lie, and it's available on Amazon.
Yes, thank you. I was going to ask you
Thank you.
to share that.
Yes. So, yeah, it was oh my God, it just poured out of me, and it was incredible. I don't know, it was an incredible experience writing it, and it's uh, it's been a beautiful thing. It's
Well, you walk your talk. I remember standing in Anaheim. I knew I was about to speak, and I don't know how you noticed, but I was nervous wreck. And you're like, okay, wait a sec. Look at me. And then you went through this little exercise with me of calming me down. And I'm like, what a kind person to help me right now. You noticed and you helped me and you know what to do. And then I went onto the stage and then I got into trouble because I couldn't stop talking. They kept on doing this thing, like, shut up, time's up.
That was probably Robert.
Probably.
No, at the event, it was definitely Doug White, not me. I wasn't doing that part.
I don't know, but it was so fascinating because my mindset had shifted to, oh, the symbol he was doing kind of looked like thumbs up, like, great, good job, So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm being encouraged. And he was like, oh my God, how do I get her to stop talking? It was hilarious. So that was very effective, Lisa. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's actually something called the Sedona method, or the emotional release method. And it's simple. I mean, you saw how fast it worked. It was just a couple of minutes. It's just, should I let it go? Yes. Could I let it go? Yes. When now? You just identify where it is in your body. And I used that to get rid of my need to worry. And so, because I realized that 80% of my thoughts were going into worrying. And when I released it, I walked around for 2 weeks not knowing what to think about.
Wow.
Because I was so used to thinking about worrying. And then finally, I was able to start thinking about what I wanted instead of what I didn't want. So it's a powerful tool. It was one of those life-changing tools that I use with every single one of my clients.
What is that? So
they have something to take home. Sedona method.
Or what was the other term?
It's also referred to as the emotional release method, but it's the Sedona method. It was taught to me by a 92-year-old man with a ponytail who drives a Mercedes convertible, Dr. Al. And he's the coolest guy. Still works, still composes music. He's amazing.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I can't wait for us actually to take all of these beautiful, like this whole concept of the mentor circle offline and create real life events as something I think I was talking to Robert, and I'm like, that's coming.
Well, I'll help. Let me know what you need.
We'll need you. We'll really need you.
What is it? We're going to do it in Vermont? Is that where it's going to start?
Where?
Vermont? Is that where it starts?
We can do it in Vermont. Well, we've got a photographer.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, what a photographer.
I know. She's amazing.
She is.
Yeah, she's opened a gallery. My roommate, Barry Fisher, who's an incredible photographer, she's just opened up her gallery. So give her a little plug.
So where can we, like, is there anything we can find online of her? I love her.
Barry Fisher Photo, I think. Barrie Fisher Photo, Fisher Photo. But yeah, she's getting her. She's mostly she was a wedding photographer, but she's now opening her gallery, so all of her art's going to be on her website, so people will be able to purchase as well as going in person. But yeah, she did the cover to my book too. So,
well, there we have the photographer.
Yep. There we go.
Another piece done.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We really appreciate having you on tonight. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Sophia, you want to wrap up for tonight, and then we'll let people know we're going to do this again next Thursday, and we'll have more guests on, and we're going to keep building the audience here, because I think we've got a formula that looks to me like it's going to work well.
Yes. I would love to wrap up. So we basically today we touched on very important topics, but we actually there's so much that we still have to announce, like so many things that are coming, and I think that we could either leave it for next week, or I think that would probably make most sense. We're going to be introducing more mentors in a shorter period of time, so just shining the light on we've set it to 3 mentors if you're a mentor watching right now and you feel called to contact us, please contact us and introduce yourself. We're really wanting to, bring in fresh fresh minds and new minds. So that's really important. Just send us an email, contact us on social media. But yes, on the weekend, we're going to start sending out emails for everybody who signed up. So if you haven't signed up on our website, findyourmentor.com with your email address. And I'd say this was a beautiful experience. I couldn't be happier with today's, just our whole setup. Thank you so much, Robert, for being who you are, and Lisa for coming on today, for making this happen. I'm more than blessed and grateful for today. And I didn't have any expectations in terms of what it was supposed to be. I know what is coming with Find Your Mentor, and I know that this whole project is protected. It's supposed to be, and from the beginning of when I started it, just the right things started to happen. And so I think that's the best way, basically, is really going in with an open mind and a good heart, Lisa, right? Yeah, and kind of being carried by the dynamic of what's supposed to unfold. I figured that the more I've been able to decondition myself, the more actually really amazing things can come through and give me just intuitively guide me. So that's where I really want us to also to take this. And I think that with the feedback that comes in, we'll be able to understand what is it that people want more of, less of. And so please don't hesitate and send us messages, give us feedback, tell us what you want and what you wish, and we'll listen. We're here. So yes, I just wish everybody a beautiful evening. Wherever you are in the world, connect with us if you feel like this is something for you, and we're here for anyone who wants to connect and is interested and feels inspired, especially through this evening. And I think that what really came across was where our hearts are and where this project is headed. There's so much still missing in terms of I'd love to go into features, but that's where I lose everybody. So I think this was enough for the first evening. Great.
Really was.
Robert,
Thank you, Sophia. You're great. You're an amazing woman, and I'm blessed to be working with you as well. Thank you, Lisa, for making the connection there. Really appreciate that. And we're going to make the most of it. We're going to turn this into something really fantastic, not just for us, but for everyone else. We understand serving is the real important way. That's the way to get what you want, is to give other people and help them get what they want. And that's my guiding force, and it always has been. And I can't wait to see how this unfurls, because it's going fast. This week has been great. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And if you like this, please share it with your friends, your followers. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. And we'll be back next week with another show. Lots more fun coming. Thanks for watching.
Thanks
Night,
for
everyone.
watching. Bye.